Hey guys, back with another lesson on creating dominant lines. I want to talk about not thinking in terms of scales in this lesson. So a thing that I think guitar players, I know I certainly do this, do that is a bit of a disservice is that they think overtly in scales. That's not that there's anything theoretically wrong with this. In fact, it all is true and correct, but I think it makes things unnecessarily complicated for your thinking, and when you're on the bandstand, you just don't have time to think like that. So when people talk about using a Mixo-Dorian or a Locrian, like that stuff all can work when you're improvising. But I find for myself what it does is I get fixated on too much theoretical knowledge. I look at things on the fretboard and I can't identify what notes what. Whereas if you play to the chord looking at arpeggios, then you know what the essential notes are. And then it frees you up in a sense where just because I'm playing an A7 chord, I don't have to just play a Mixolydian chord, a Mixolydian scale. I could play any note I want to play as long as I resolve it correctly. And that's a really liberating thing. I could create the Zane scale, which could go like 1, flat 2, flat 3, 3, 4, flat 5, 5, and so forth. And it will work if I use it in the right way by heading towards target notes at the right time. So when you get focused on like, I have to use Mixolydian, sometimes you'll hear people solo and it just meanders and sounds like noodling without a point. And it's sort of a bit like a classical study. Whereas if you focus on the notes in the chord, then all of a sudden it's grounded and it has a harmonic sense and people can hear where you're eventually going. The other thing is, there are a lot of other arpeggios that you can take from this scale that work really well. So you could play an E minor, an E minor 7 arpeggio. That will imply an A7 sus 4, which in reality is just a 2/5 sound. So this is something I'll touch on a bit later, but when you're playing 2/5s, you can forget about the 2 chord because the 2 chord is the 5 chord. An E minor 7 chord is just the same as an A7 sus 4 with an A in bass. So that frees up again your thinking. But you could play, that sounds great, over an A chord. You could play a B minor chord, a B minor 7, a G major 7. So if you had an A groove, you could play things like this. Some of those enclosures from last time. Start to add the syncopated lines in there, it makes it a lot more interesting. But that's the thing that I think I would try and encourage you to get away from, is hear the notes in the chord, think about the notes in the chord, and then the other notes, whether they happen to be from the scale or chromatic notes, don't matter so much because your lines have a point to them and they're going somewhere. So I encourage you when you're jamming with this stuff, and I would stick with just the one chord. If you can play endless lines over a static chord, then when you have to come to playing over changes, it won't be a problem because you have a wealth of ideas that you can use. So come up with your ideas in this position and then move them through the other positions for the cage system. And I'll do a video on the cage system for any players who are not 100% across it. And then once you've got that happening, then when it comes to playing 2/5s, as I said before, you can forget about the 2, just worry about the 5. You've got your 5 licks there, and then we can look at 1 chord licks, whether that's a minor or a major chord. So have fun with that. Any questions, leave a message, hit subscribe, and share with anyone that you think is going to find this information useful. I just want to help other guitar players out with stuff that I know that really liberated my playing. I don't think that jazz is a more exalted art form than any other style, whether it's country or blues. I just think that guitar players can get stuck in the world of pentatonics, which, you know, they're great to us. Pentatonics are wonderful, and you know, my rent is paid by pentatonics. But it can be a little bit limiting at times, and there's this whole exciting world of, you know, other notes that are out there that you can use that can really enhance your playing. But often we don't have an insight into that world, and the theory around it is just unnecessarily complicated, and it can be hard to try and decipher that. So hopefully you find these useful, and I'll hit you up with another one soon. Take it easy.